Hello everybody and welcome back to another knife review, and today we're going to talk about Benchmade Azeria, which was previously called Plan D. Now, like all my reviews, the first page will just be the overall rating I give to the knife, as well as specifications, which you can easily find in the description area of this video. I will also, you can simply find this in the internet easily as well. To save your time, we're going straight into the review section. For a start, this knife has very nice quality and it's a very small knife. I've got a medium-sized hand. As you can see, that's still not actually small enough to fully grip this knife, but it's a comfortable knife. And the weight of this knife is very light as well. Now, down to the detailed review. This knife was made from N680 Blade steel, and it's very great against corrosion resistance. And it's got a very sharp and pointy blade. While we're here, we do a quick paper cutting demonstration. As you can see, you can do a push cutting with this knife. This is straight out of the box. It's brand new, and it cuts very, very well. So now it's got full flat grind, and that's actually very good for cutting materials and slicing materials. As you can see, it goes all the way, like very straight grind right here. And it's got a forward pressure design tip. What does that mean is that the tip is actually particularly close to the edge. It's like a very straight line here. So that means when you're slashing anything, the tip is the first thing that particularly meets the material you're trying to cut, be it paper or flash, if that's what you need to do. Whereas in contrary, there's this trailing point knife, which is when you're cutting, the tip doesn't actually meet with the material you're trying to cut first. What you're actually using particularly is this belly. So you can imagine the belly here has more area as in terms of surface contact, and that means the tip here will cut better in terms of like slashing into material and cut it open than the belly of that knife. So that's what I mean by the forward pressure tip. I've made a video to demonstrate this point. I'll upload a link of that video in this video as well. So moving on, we've got a very low reflective blade coating, which is the black coating here. It's helping to prevent rusting, as well as providing a very low visibility during night if this is used in a tactical application. And now we've got a V-shaped or a pistol-shaped knife. What this means is when you draw the knife, if I didn't mention this before, the knife was designed for law reinforcements or military officers to actually help to protect their sidearms. So the reason originally it was called Plan D was that you get your primary weapon, say your rifle, and then that's your Plan A, and Plan B was your, I believe, your sidearm, which is a pistol, and Plan C is probably a larger fixed blade or a larger folding knife. But Plan D is this guy. Is when some guy try to like come and grab your pistol off your host, and you quickly draw this knife and cut their hand with it. But when you draw the knife from your pocket or from your belt, the tip is already in the position where it's the most damaging to opponent. Whereas like any other knives which is using the belly, particularly cutting, you got to actually position it to the belly, and when you cut it, it's not as aggressive as say a tip, something like this. I hope I explained that point very well. Anyways, moving on, we've got a V-shaped. Okay, we've already covered that. The finger choil on this thing is very well designed. and helps to secure the grip. As you can see, it's like a slight hand guard here, and there's a big choil here, so you can put your index finger right here, which is to secure your grip while you do whatever the business you have to do. And the jimping on the back of the knife also improved the grip as well. Benchmade doesn't usually do a lot of very good jimpings, in my opinion. They either do something very useless, like the ones you could find on your Benchmade 940, or they will make something that's very aggressive that you can use to use it as a sandpaper. This knife actually has something that's just somewhere between, which I really appreciate. This is a really good jimping, and you can feel the traction it provides to you, but it's not going to cut your hand open. Really like that. So now we've got the ergonomics. Like I said, this is a very small knife, and I have a medium-sized hand, and I touch this, like, it's actually not bad. There's no corners that will hurt me, and like, I mean, beside the point, it's just slightly small. Nothing here is wrong. So I really like that as well. And the full-time construction, so the steel goes all over the place on the handle, so you don't have to worry too much about the strength. And the traction on the handle is reasonably good. As you can see, it's textured similar to, say, most of the FRNs, which is kind of like slight textured but not aggressive. It's good enough for the application you have. And moving on to the next page. Now, this is very hard to see, but there's screws on the handle, so you can take this knife apart should you have to. And there's a small line at the hole here. Small is better than none, in my opinion. So in terms of handguard, there's none on this knife, which is good, because in some situations where you're trying to draw this knife very quickly, say for example in terms of self-defense, let's say this is a picture of you and you got a knife with handguard. You try to draw the knife very quickly, but your handguard potentially can get caught on your t-shirt or whatever clothes you're wearing on your upper body. So that could bumper the speed of your knife drawing. So that's pretty good as well. There's, in terms of price, this knife is very economic in terms of Benchmade standard. They usually make a lot of like high quality but high price knife, but this is high quality. The price is reasonably well balanced. So sheath design, there's a drainage hole on the sheath, so if it gets wet or rainy, you don't have to worry too much about draining the water there. And the knife was designed so that when you draw the knife, you're already ready to deploy or cut, whatever. There's no fancy, well, probably not so fancy, but there's nothing designed here to make you have to readjust your grip. You draw the knife, you're ready. The knife, it doesn't have any clip or anything that retains the knife any further than just the cut as sheath. That's also reducing the time that you have to use to draw the knife in terms of there's an emergency. There's many different carrying options. This clip here can be, in theory, should be able to mount on this side. And you can see there's lashing holes here as well to say mount it onto your leg or something. This is a belt clip, just particularly designed for, well, mount on your belt. So it's a pretty good knife overall. Although there's some negative points. It's quite small for real knife fighting, say, if it was something other than just a simple cutting the guy who's trying to take your weapon. Basically, in terms of knife fighting world, the bigger knife, the better. The blade is actually relatively thin and very fine tip, so you can see it's probably just a around 2-3 millimeters thin, even on the spine. That's probably about 3 millimeters, but it gets very, very thin around here. But yeah, so because it's so thin, we can potentially break this knife if you say you're trying to slash this against someone who's wearing like a lot of belt buckles or body armor. That's just my speculation though. Another thing is the handle is not very, very big. So I don't know if you are a really big guy, you hold this knife would be comfortable or not, but I feel like it would be just maybe a little bit less confidence inspiring because not all your fingers will be on the handle. For me, it's already kind of struggling for me to get the last finger here. So that's probably one thing you want to consider if you're a really big guy and you want to buy this knife. Another thing is the straight edge is considerably harder to sharpen in my opinion on a flat bench stone. This is just due to just simply because your bench stones are usually they're designed to be straight completely, but they're not going to be actually really perfectly straight, and neither is this blade. So when you're sharpening it, you may think you're able to sharpen all the points on the knife, but really you're sharpening some points of the knife on flat bench stone. Although that can be actually resolved by having a sharpening rod, which is overall a good sharpening mechanism for all shaped knives. Now the knife has a very odd shape, as you can imagine, so using this for like cutting food and everyday things may not be as good as a normal shaped knife, like something like this guy. Now the sheaths, there's actually been reports, when I was trying to buy the knife, I saw some reviewers saying the sheath was not very good because it doesn't fit all sized belts. In my opinion, it doesn't. This is around maybe over 3 inches long, this little gap here, almost 3 inches, I'll say. If we take the knife as a measurement device, yeah, the blade is around 3 inches and this thing is almost 3 inches. So I think most of the belts should definitely fit. Although I don't really know what you actually might wear for your belt. If it's something this wide, it won't fit, but that's pretty rare. So positives based on my speculations. The handle are slightly smaller than tang, so as you can see, there's edge coming out from this end, that end. So the tang is slightly bigger. In my opinion, that's actually good in terms of rotational like traction, because say if you try to use the knife and it rotates a little bit, you actually get a little bit of friction here because it's raised to be a little a mini jimping. That's probably the reason why they made it such a way. And the blade is very small, so in some areas of the United States and some areas of rest of the world, 3 inches long blade is probably okay in terms of you know, concealed weapon carry and that kind of thing. I'm not really sure where exactly you live, so that could be true or not to you, so don't take my word for it. And the negative things based on my speculations, the Wharncliffe actually has a tendency of getting stuck on like hard objects. So when you use this knife and cut whatever, because this knife is made to be such a straight edge, like say if you cut onto something very hard like bones and things, this knife is not going to glide off the material as easy as say a trailing point like this, because this is acting like slightly like a wheel. So if you cut something and then that thing is so hard that you didn't cut through, it will just ultimately reduce the pressure you apply, and you kind of easily take the knife off the opponent. So that's one thing to consider, like it may interrupt the flow of your motion when you're cutting things. And the sheath is, okay, I'll demonstrate this. It's not really a big issue, but sometimes I find when I hold this knife, I'm trying to take it off. Like my thumb, like naturally like try to press here, but it's kind of like a smooth surface. I would like something, maybe it's like a little bit easier to press and like won't let me slip. That's not really a big issue, but I think it's something they can probably slightly improve. So now the final note, this knife I think is a very good, say if you want to buy a Benchmade knife, your first Benchmade knife, but you don't want to commit too much money to it. You just want the quality and the brand and just have a taste of Benchmade. This is a very good knife to buy, because rarely do they have many of the US made Benchmade knives that are actually at this price level. Very rare. But this thing has all the good things of Benchmade. Well, the logo and the quality, the sharpness, and the very well designed. Like, I mean, this is not a cheap looking knife if you show it to anyone. So in my opinion, it's a very good starting point. Otherwise, that is my review, and I hope you enjoyed it so far. I've also made other knife reviews videos, so check out my channels if you can. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.